Toyota's Land Cruiser V8 is probably the toughest, most capable luxury SUV you can buy, globally trusted in some of the world's most inhospitable climates. From the Australian Outback to the Argentinian Pampas and on through the streets of Europe, this is a vehicle universally admired for its all-round abilities. Highly reliable, tough off-road, yet sufficiently comfortable and refined to go anywhere and be seen everywhere. Though now improved with even more off-road ability and luxury kit, it's still not sophisticated and car-like, but for most potential owners that won't matter. They know that it'll probably outlast them, and that it'll always get them there. Welcome to the car that began Toyota's world domination, the Land Cruiser. No fewer than 5 million of these have been sold since the name was first applied to a clone Jeep back in 1954. And it says everything that most of those are still going strong, pounding the Gobi Desert, delivering UN aid, and yes, in the case of this V8 model, satisfying a rather select group of luxury SUV owners. This car is a completely different proposition to the 3-litre D4D Land Cruiser that sells for nearly half its price to the Land Rover Discovery set. But for the super rich who tend to go for this V8 version, both that and the boxy, forgettable looks are actually a selling point. After all, if you really do have it, then you really don't have to flaunt it. This Land Cruiser V8 has been with us since 2008, when it replaced previous models that used first VX, then Amazon badges to differentiate themselves from humbler 6-cylinder Land Cruiser variants. Owners of those top versions will recognise this one immediately, just as Toyota intends that they should. Over 1,500 engineers were given over 5 years, twice Toyota's norm, to first develop this car, before being further tasked to improve it for the 2012 model year with a cleaner engine, a smarter look, extra equipment and a whole range of off-road handling and driver assistance systems. The result, the improved version that we're going to look at here, ought to be very special indeed. Let's find out if it is. Drive to some of the remotest parts of the planet, and if roads exist, it's likely that you'll find a Land Cruiser pounding them. This one is the most capable of its kind yet. In fact, far more capable than even the most demanding luxury SUV owner will ever need it to be, which makes it a perfect fit in garages of the super rich filled with cars that go faster than they will ever need to go, and luxury limousines designed for long journeys that they will probably never take. For these people, price will largely be an irrelevance, but for the few who may raise an amused eyebrow, wondering why this V8 model is nearly twice as expensive as the 6-cylinder 3-litre D4D Land Cruiser, then the engine provides many of the answers. It's a monster, a 282 brake horsepower, 4.2-litre V8 diesel controlled via a 6-speed automatic gearbox that copes with a 650 Newton-metre torque figure big enough to facilitate a 3,500 kilogram towing capacity. Better still, the power on offer is almost immediate, or if you're clumsy with your immaculately crafted Timberland right boot, occasionally actually startling. Rest to 60 in this super SUV takes just 8.9 seconds on the way to a top speed that, if it weren't for the boxy shape, would be far higher than the quoted 130 miles an hour, and that actually feels quite quick enough. But what about around the bends? This is, after all, the only model in the super luxury SUV sector that uses an old-fashioned separate chassis rather than the more car-like monocoque type construction that's favoured by other competitors in this segment. Now, there's no fancy air suspension either, just more standard coils. Toyota could have provided both of these things, of course, but that would have compromised off-road ability and flummoxed the guy with a hammer trying to maintain his Land Cruiser in the middle of Siberia. And it's for these people that the engine has been designed to work in temperatures of, from -30 to +50 degrees centigrade. It's all very impressive, but the downside of such a utilitarian approach will see this Land Cruiser floundering in its efforts to follow a fast-driven BMW X5 or something like that over a twisting country road. But then why would you want to? Most owners will have a supercar tucked away in their 3-berth timber-framed garage for that kind of thing. No, all this V8 really needs to do is to cruise quietly, which of course is no problem, and be able to press on across country without too much body roll. And for that, you're going to need to make use of the AVS adaptive variable suspension system that via this switch here can click you between comfort, standard and sport modes, each pretty much delivering what it promises. And though in sport mode there's still more body roll than you'll find in more car-like luxury SUVs, there's a lot less than you might expect from something this big, tall and heavy. It's a pity though that the variable flow control steering is still a little bit light. Off-road is where this car's separate chassis approach really pays off. Power goes to all 4 wheels via not only the 6-speed automatic gearbox but a torque sensing differential that can smoothly vary the amount of torque going to both front and rear axles as required. If conditions are really bad, then you'll want to switch from H4, that's high range 4-wheel drive, to L4, low range 4-wheel drive via this rotary switch on the dash. Now, if even then you're feeling like you might be getting stuck, you've got the further option of locking the differential via this button down here. Now, in such conditions, you'll be glad potentially of the hill start assist system to get you up steep slopes, wherein you'll be making use of an approach angle of up to 31 degrees. And once you get to the top of any given slope and come down again, you'll be using the downhill assist control system and making use of a departure angle of 23 degrees. There's also a ramp breakover angle of 24 degrees and a maximum wading depth of up to 700 millimeters. And if there should be rocks strewn across your path, well, you simply use the AHC active height control system so that you can raise the car up and glide over them. You've also a Land Rover style multi-terrain select system that enables you to adapt your Land Cruiser to the type of land that you're driving on. So you've got 5 different modes that will automatically adapt the throttle, traction and braking to suit the kind of terrain that you're travelling over. The 5 modes are mud and sand, loose rock, mogul, dirt and rock. You can traverse any of these and watch your progress on a clever multi-terrain monitor that displays a view of your complete surroundings on the dashboard monitor. There's even a tyre angle display in the centre of the dash here between the dials, so you can check which way the front wheels are pointing. Now, for really slow, arduous work, you'll be glad both of the 225 millimeters of ground clearance and the really clever crawl control system. Now, this works only in low-range mode and can be used either in conjunction with the multi-terrain select system or on its own. You've got 5 different settings down here by the gear stick on this rotary control, with the lower ones really working for things like rocks and moguls and the higher ones for things like loose surfaces, sand and mud and grass and so on. You simply set crawl control when you need to go up a steep slope or down a steep descent, or when you're trying to extricate yourself from somewhere you've almost got stuck. And the whole system deals with all the throttling and braking. All you have to do is steer. Do potential owners need all of this capability? Probably not. They certainly don't want to know how it all works. They just need to know that this car will get them there through landslides, hurricanes or desert droughts. It will. Toyota tried to update the look of this Land Cruiser as part of the 2012 model year package of improvements. So there's a restyled front grille, a smarter set of headlamps and incorporated LED daytime running lights. Moving round, owners of the original version of this model might note the thicker side protection rubbing strips with their chromed highlights and the restyled door mirrors with their integrated turn indicators that incorporate the same LED light technology that you'll find in the restyled combination light clusters at the rear. Ultimately though, this remains a boxy, old-school large SUV, rather than something to suit the trendy Range Rover Sport style set, and there's something rather refreshing about that. Passers-by will note this Land Cruiser's enormous size, who could not, without mentally classifying you in the posing, hunting, fishing, horsey set. There are no aluminium panels, fancy xenon headlamps or electronic parking brakes, all of which would be impossible to service in third world countries. No, it's clear that you bought this vehicle for a sensible purpose, transporting 7 people, for example. Of this car's most direct rivals, only the pricier Mercedes GL class can do that, and it's nothing like as capable off-road. I'm actually always a bit shocked when I get into super luxury huge 4x4s to find out just how little of that bulk has translated into rear passenger space, but not here. The second row can properly accommodate 3 fully sized adults, even if they're basketball players, thanks to the ample headroom and the way that the seats can be slid backwards and forwards to prioritise legroom. There's even a separate heating and ventilation zone here. Now, when you're not using these third row seats, they fold slightly awkwardly against the sides of the cargo area. Other rivals more neatly fold their third row seats into the boot floor here. But the problem with doing that is that then it leaves no space for a proper full-sized spare tyre of the sort that you get on this Land Cruiser, and you'll thank Toyota for that if a puncture grounds you in the Serengeti. Now, you access the boot via this Range Rover style split level tailgate, which provides a comfortable seat for outdoor activity. And beyond it, of course, there's a vast amount of carriage capacity, from 259 to 1,267 litres, depending upon the seating configuration that you've chosen. And there are plenty of those, thanks to the way that the second row seat splits 40-20-40. At the wheel, your seating position is higher and even more commanding than that of a Range Rover, with a dashboard and a build quality standard befitting the Lexus badgework that this car wears in some countries. Of course, not everything's perfect. The dashboard wood looks a bit plasticky, for example, but overall it generally feels pretty high-end, and finding a comfortable driving position is but the work of a few moments of electric button tweaking. It certainly feels classier in here than it used to, thanks to the greater use of piano black paint, silver finished trim and chromium plated detailing. Ahead of you lie a set of backlit blue illuminated Optitron instruments with a large multi-information TFT screen between them. And although the switchgear can be a bit scattered, at least many of the buttons are large and easy to use, even if you're wearing a pair of gloves, something you won't need to do for too long in the cabin on a cold morning if you activate this power heater to boost the standard ventilation system. I also like the fact that you get a proper conventional handbrake. Best of all, it feels solid and built to last. You feel like you could get in wearing a pair of muddy Wellington boots and you wouldn't feel guilty about it. When it comes to SUVs, there's a lot to be said for the real thing. How you see the value proposition here will depend very much on your perspective. List pricing suggests that you're going to be paying well over £65,000 for a new Land Cruiser V8. That's nearly twice as much as you pay for the very different 6-cylinder 3-litre D4D Land Cruiser that satisfies Mitsubishi Shogun and Land Rover Discovery class buyers who are nearly quite well off. This V8 model, in contrast, targets Range Rover, Mercedes GL Class and perhaps even top-end Audi Q7 models. And you can see why Toyota thinks that it stacks up well against them. A Range Rover, for example, costs you well over £70,000 or more and doesn't offer 7 seats. Mercedes GL Class is not as good off-road and will probably cost you about 25% more when specification is taken into account. And an Audi Q7, although it's significantly cheaper, is also significantly smaller inside and nothing like as good on the rough stuff thanks to its car-like monocoque underpinnings. Though a thirsty petrol version is offered in other markets, Toyota wisely doesn't bother with it here. So there's just this single V8 D4D diesel version on offer, packed to the gills with luxury kit. All of the latest off-road handling tools are included as standard, so you get the multi-terrain system, so you can adjust the car to the ground you're driving on, the multi-terrain monitor, so you've got a better view of your surroundings, and crawl control for the really extreme stuff. But what about niceties to soothe away the strains of tarmac terrain? Well, there are plenty of those too. So you get 20-inch alloy wheels, auto headlamps and wipers, an auto-dipping rear-view mirror, a 4-zone voice-activated climate control system with 28 vents, a 6-disc in-dash CD auto-changer, keyless entry, cruise control and leather seats. Further additions to this improved model include a heated steering wheel and a refrigerated cool box between front seats that are cooled as well as heated. You also get the option of a full house premium in-car entertainment system for rear seat passengers who get 8-inch colour screens that can be operated independently. But perhaps the most important recent addition to this model is Toyota Touch Pro, a multimedia and navigation system that via an 8-inch colour dashboard screen enables you to do everything from control a digital tuner to Bluetooth in your mobile phone, use a rear view parking camera, access 3D satellite navigation or control a 14-speaker JBL audio system. The system includes a USB port and, via your mobile phone, access to the internet and things like Google Local Search. And through that, you'll be able to get everything from local parking availability to fuel prices. And via a dedicated Toyota customer portal, find out about everything from traffic flow to weather conditions. That only leaves safety. All the usual electronic assistance features for braking, traction and stability control are of course in evidence, but if all else fails, then you'll be reassured by the thought that there are 8 airbags, including knee bags for both front seat passengers, side bags for the first 2 rows and curtain shield bags for outer passengers in all 3 rows. In addition to that, you get anti-whiplash head restraints, Isofix child seat fastenings and a pedestrian-friendly bonnet. Toyota has cleaned up this model's V8 diesel with a diesel particulate filter in order that the car should achieve Euro 5 emissions status. But that hasn't had too much effect on overall running costs. CO2 returns have improved from 270 to 250 grams per kilometre, and combined cycle fuel consumption is better too, improved from 27.9 to 29.7 miles to the gallon. But these are really detailed changes. Still, you do get a huge 93-litre fuel tank, so you're going to have an enormous operating range. And you can also console yourself with the fact that these returns are no worse than you'd get in a comparable 4.4-litre diesel Range Rover. What else? Well, replacing the massive 20-inch tyres isn't going to be inexpensive, but depreciation shouldn't be too much of an issue for Land Cruiser V8 owners. It seems that the lack of a premium badge doesn't adversely affect its value on the used market. Most industry experts reckoning that this car should retain around 51% of its value after 3 years. What else? Servicing costs should be lower than this model's German competitors, and customer satisfaction surveys seem to suggest that dealer service is better in Toyota garages too. other SUV brands talk about proven heritage, the Land Cruiser just has it. The United Nations has bought over 12,000 of these things over the years and wouldn't touch anything else. You can hardly switch on the news without seeing one of these dodging mines in Afghanistan or stretchering away insurgents in Fallujah. None of which explains why a luxury SUV buyer with Range Rovers, Porsche Cayennes and Mercedes GLs to choose from should go for this V8 version. Or perhaps it does. Talk to the UK's small but very rich and very loyal band of Land Cruiser V8 owners and you'll get the impression from them that the merely wealthy can keep their rather silly, sporty, large SUVs. This car is bought by people who value getting there over looking good. People who, by and large, won't be worrying about what their neighbours think because their farms and country mansions don't have any. They need a 4x4 that does the job and then some. A Rolls-Royce of the rough. And more than ever, in improved form, this one delivers.